Pius VII was Cesenate. Barnaba Niccolo Maria Luigi Chiaramonti was a monk of the Order of St. Benedict, in addition to being a well-known theologian and bishop. Prior to becoming pope, he was Bishop of Tivoli in 1782, and later Bishop of Imola in 1785. He would become cardinal in 1789. Pius VII was multilingual and had the ability to speak Italian, French, English, and Latin. He would excommunicate Napoleon after the latter had invaded the Papal States in 1809. He would be taken prisoner and remain in France until 1814. Pius lived the remainder of his life in relative peace. His papacy saw a significant growth of the Catholic Church in the United States, where Pius established several new dioceses. Pius VII died at age 81. In 2007, Pope Benedict XVI began the process towards canonizing him as a saint, and he was granted the title Servant of God. He would restore the Jesuits, condemn the slave trade, reconfine the followers of the Talmud to the ghetto, excommunicate the Freemasons, promote archaeological excavations in Ostia, rebuild the Arch of Titus, enrich the Vatican Library, create the yellow and white flag of the Holy See, constructed fountains and piazzas, as well as erect the obelisk at Monte Pincio. Leo XII was Gengarini. Born Annibale Francesco Clemente Melchiore Girolamo Nicola della Genga, he was in ill health from the time of his election to the papacy to his death less than 6 years later, though he was noted for enduring pain well. He was a deeply conservative ruler who sought to do away with anti-Catholic ideologies spread by Enlightenment thought, hunting down secret societies and banning the followers of the Talmud from holding property, as he believed that they would seek to abuse their positions as landowners to their Christian tenants, whom they viewed as no better than animals. The Pope died of that hemorrhoidal condition to which he was subject. His remains were transferred and buried before the altar of Pope Leo I on the 5th of December, 1830. Leo XII is considered to have been a man of noble character, with a passion for order and efficiency, but one who lacked insight into the temporal developments of his time. It was alleged that Leo XII had a liaison as a prelate with the wife of a Swiss guard. As a nuncio in Germany, it was rumored he allegedly fathered 3 illegitimate children. Pius VIII was Cingolani. Pius VIII's pontificate was the shortest of the 19th century and is likely the least remembered. His brief papacy witnessed the Catholic emancipation in Great Britain in 1829, which he welcomed, and the July Revolution in France in 1830, which he reluctantly accepted. Pius VIII is often remembered for his writings on marriages between Catholics and Protestants in the 1830 encyclical Litteris Altero ab Hinc, in which he declared that a marriage could only be properly blessed if proper provisions had been made to ensure the bringing up of children in the Catholic faith. He was strongly against religious pluralism, citing that it was not only ridiculous, but also undermining the Catholic faith to also hold any religion up as its equal. In many ways, this parallels the first commandment, which according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church means that followers must worship and adore God alone, because God is alone. His death less than 2 years after his election to the papacy has led to speculation of a possible murder. Gregory XVI was Bellunese. Born Bartolomeo Alberto Capellari, he had adopted the name Mauro upon entering the religious order of the Camaldolese. Strongly conservative and traditionalist, he opposed democratic and modernizing reforms in the Papal States and throughout Europe, seeing them as fronts for revolutionary atheism. Against these trends, Gregory XVI sought to strengthen the religious and political authority of the papacy. In the encyclical Mirari Vos, he pronounced it false and absurd, or rather mad, that we must secure and guarantee to each one liberty of conscience. He encouraged missionary activity abroad and condemned the slave trade. Domestically, he would ban railways. On the 20th of May, 1846, he felt himself failing in health. A few days later, he was taken ill with facial erysipelas. At first, the attack was not thought to be very serious, but on the 31st of May, his strength suddenly failed, and it was seen that the end was near. He died at the age of 80. After his funeral, he was buried in St. Peter's Basilica. He is the most recent pope to take the pontifical name Gregory, and the most recent pope who was not a bishop when elected. He was, until the accession of Pope Francis in 2013, the most recent pope to have been a priest of a religious order. I'm a prisoner of the Vatican. Pius IX would declare this after the nation of Italy, an acolyte of the Synagogue of Satan, took control of the city of Rome from the papal state, and in turn went to war against the Church of Christ. Pius IX was Senegalese. Born Giovanni Maria Mastai Ferretti, he had the longest verified papal reign. He was notable for convoking the First Vatican Council in 1868 and for permanently losing control of the papal states in 1870 to the Kingdom of Italy. Thereafter, he refused to leave Vatican City, declaring himself a prisoner of the Vatican. At the time of his election, he was seen as a champion of liberalism and reform, but the atheist revolutions of 1848 decisively reversed his policies. Upon the assassination of his Prime Minister Rossi, Pius escaped Rome and excommunicated all participants. After its suppression by the French army and his return in 1850, his policies and doctrinal pronouncements sought to stem the revolutionary tide. His 1864 syllabus of errors was a strong condemnation against liberalism, modernism, moral relativism, secularization, separation of church and state, and other Enlightenment ideas. Pius definitively reaffirmed Catholic teaching in favor of the establishment of the Catholic faith as the state religion where possible. He centralized power in the Church in the Holy See and Roman Curia, while also clearly defining the Pope's doctrinal authority. Pope John Paul II beatified him in 2000, causing an outrage from the followers of the Talmud, who cited that their hatred of Christ was a justification for Catholics not venerate a vicar of Christ. Leo XIII was Carpignatani. Born Gioacchino Vincenzo Raffaele Luigi Pecci, he lived until the age of 93. He was the second oldest serving pope, before Pope Agatho and the third longest lived pope in history, before Pope Benedict XVI as Pope Emeritus, and had the fourth longest reign of any, behind those of St. Peter, Pius IX, and John Paul II. He is well known for his intellectualism and his attempts to define the position of the Catholic Church in the modern world. In his famous 1891 encyclical Rerum Novarum, he identifies the rights of workers and an opposition of both socialism and laissez-faire capitalism. He would promote the rosary and scapular and revive Thomism as the official theological and philosophical foundation for the Catholic Church. Due to loss of the papal state, he sought to employ policies that could not be restrained by temporal power. Officially, Leo XIII had died of pneumonia, followed by hemorrhagic pleurisy. After his death in 1903, he was buried in the grottos of St. Peter's Basilica before his remains were later transferred in 1924 to the Basilica of St. John Lateran.